that first experience you have with directing, what year is that? That's while you're still in college, right?
That was it, still in college. Yes,
Okay.
that was a long time ago. That was 69.
Okay. So when was it that you started working officially as a director and started becoming your actual profession?
Just a few weeks after that, I didn't have the guts to move to New York and be a struggling actor. And I thought, well, I do have this affinity for television and television directing. Let me give that a shot. And I managed to get a job before I graduated, a job at the local station that was affiliated with Penn State, and I was assigned to be the assistant to a director who was directing a music and art series. And 2 weeks after I got there, he quit. He got a job in Philadelphia and moved on. And the executive producer said, "This is bad timing, man, because I'm about to go on a 2 week vacation that I've been planning for a year. So look, take these 2 weeks, do whatever you can to pick up the pieces of what he did or what you saw that he was working on and see what you can get done in 2 weeks. And when I get back, I'll start the search for a full-time director." Well, I thought to myself, this might just be my chance here. And I kind of said, I'm going to do everything I can to tie up all those loose ends and try to finish those little projects he was doing and redo some interviews and edit together some of the film he had shot. And I learned things I had to know just about 30 seconds before I had to know it, just to get it done, lie my way through it. And the executive producer got back. He said, "I can't believe you did this much in 2 weeks." He said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a chance on you. I'm going to make you the director." And so I was a full scale television director 2 weeks into my career.
Wow.
You know,
You won the lottery, basically.
I did. Well, I won several times, but that was the first win. Yes.
And what's the technology like back then? Because I genuinely don't know in terms of all this. Because nowadays you have all the digital systems. How are you directing a TV show in 1969 or the early 70s in comparison to how you would do it now?
Well, I think the most important thing I can say is that the station itself was a black and white station. Everything was in black and white. We had no color equipment at all. It was the, the the techniques, the vocabulary, the approach, the attitude were very much the same, and it was a matter of putting that team together and trusting what they're doing and barking those orders quickly and anticipating what might happen next. And all of that was the same and is the same. And I, I learned a great deal, and 10 months later said, I think I'm ready to move on. And I went to a little UHF station in San Jose, California,
Hmm.
probably the worst station in the country in terms of its production abilities and its and the way it was staffed. Uh, we they didn't have enough programming to sign on until 3 in the afternoon. Had no newscast, had no newscast,
Jeez.
and had Spanish programming during the weekends. Uh, but as a result, I got to do a little bit of everything else, and I ran camera and did audio, and I was a videotape operator and directed a lot of live teenage dance shows and Spanish used car commercials. Uh,
Did you have a specialty going into those jobs, saying like I'm a obviously you can direct anything that's live, but was there a thing like a specific type of show that you were either really good at or really interested in directing?
I found the challenge of multiple camera directing the most challenging and the most rewarding, and I think what I was most suited for. And so there were only 3 cameras in that studio, and we did just an unbelievable turned out an unbelievable amount of content. None of it very good, but it was all that's similar groundwork to what I needed to fill out my toolkit and have that set of skills that it took to just get stuff on tape or on the air.
And you had such an incredible break with that first job, and then you go to San Jose. Where is it in your career that you think you had like your big break that really is what propelled you into doing higher quality programs and stations and working there?
Right at that point, you're following this timeline in great sequence. I In my senior year, this back to that same time when I first directed that live show. I had an internship at KDKA television and radio in Pittsburgh. And that internship was a great one. I was assigned to a different department every single week. And so I got to know how a station runs. And although it was a big union station, they still were willing to let the kids do some things. And I was in television news one Saturday morning, and they had run out of reporters. And they got a call that there had been a robbery on the north side. And they looked around, they had no reporters left. And one camera crew sitting there waiting for an assignment. And they said, hey, Don, is Don right? Don, take that camera crew and go over to the north side and cover this robbery. Well, here I was, an intern assigned to actually report on a robbery that had a great little twist to it, and the story made it onto air. And here I was, an intern with this great exposure, covering my own news story. The following week, I was in radio promotion, and they were writing promos for the disc jockeys. And I raised my hand. I said, "Can I throw a couple ideas out?" They said, yeah, sure. So I wrote a couple of promos, and they accepted them. And there I was, sitting with these big-time disc jockeys, getting them to record their promotional announcements that I had written. It was a fabulous experience, a great opportunity, a great learning experience. The following week, I was in television promotion, and that was probably what I thought the only week of the internship, because they were filming a whole series of promotions for the new fall season. And they had hired a jingle writer and a choreographer to make these little 1-minute promos about the shows that were going to be on CBS come fall. And so we had this big production meeting the day before we were to go out, and the production manager said, "Does anybody here drive a stick shift?" And I raised my hand. I said, "Yeah, I can do that." He said, "Oh, good, because we rented a camper to be sort of a traveling dressing room for the dancers, because we're going to take these dancers out to Pittsburgh landmarks and film these little 1-minute spots." And so I spent that whole week driving this camper around the city. I couldn't even go on set. I had to stay with the camper out in the parking lot. I couldn't even go on set to watch them film these promos. Every once in a while, I would carry a carton of Cokes in to give to the dancers. But at the end of that week, I thought, well, I kind of wasted my time there. But after I went back to school, graduated, had that first job at Penn State, second job in California, I called the manager. I said, when I left, I said I would do anything to get back here to get a job and ask you for advice. And you told me to just get some experience in the real world and then give you a call. Well, I'm calling because I did that. I got experience at 2 different stations. Is there any job for me there at KDKA? And he said, "Don King, I'll tell you the truth. I just can't place you." I said, "Well, I'm the intern that covered that story on the north side. I'm probably the only intern ever got to actually be a reporter on site." He said, "I'm sorry. We get a lot of interns come through. I just cannot place you." I said, "Well, when I was in radio, I wrote promos for every one of the disc jockeys that got on the air." And he said, "Wait a minute, Don King." He said, "Are you the kid that drove the stick shift?" Yeah, I did that. He said, "You were great at that." He said, "You know what? I do have a job for you. If you want to come back for the summer, you can be the producer of Pirate Baseball. We only cover about 20 games through the year, but I need somebody to sit beside the anchorman in the various parks and be in contact with the control room back in Pittsburgh and tell them when you're commercial, when you're back from commercial, feed them promotional announcements." And I got to travel with the Pirates for those 20 games, got to work with Bob Prince and the play-by-play team. And it was by far the most exciting job I had ever had. At the end of the season, they kept me on to do the same thing for Steeler football. And then they kept me on to become a director, where I directed morning news. And then I got to direct telethons and some documentaries. And then they started a weekly magazine show that I produced and directed and wrote and occasionally hosted. It was by far the biggest leap in my career. And it was all because I could drive a stick shift.
Isn't it kind of, it works out great, but isn't it kind of, life is kind of a sick joke that you do all this work and then no one cares about that, but it's driving a stick shift and that's what people notice.
Yeah, in some ways it's sick. In some ways it's maybe the way life should be. That if you pay attention to all the little details and believe in a work ethic and just do what you can and do the best you can, things will work out. And I'll look at it that way.